The explosion comes before the scream. That is the first thing you learn. Not in training, not in the manual, in the field, in the dust, in the fraction of a second where your brain is still deciding whether what just happened was real. The sound arrives after the pressure arrives after the light, and the light, you will spend years trying to name its color. You never do. 0000 to 0130. The entry, you are 23 years old. Your kit weighs 11 kilograms. You have trained for 14 months. None of it prepared you for the smell. The forward operating base is a collection of prefabricated walls and silence. Generators hum at a constant low frequency. 60 hertz, you will later read. And that sound becomes the baseline of everything. When the generators stop, something is wrong. When they hum, you are technically safe. Your designation is Combat Medic, E4. Your bunk is the third from the left. Your supervisor tells you on the first morning, you are here to preserve the mission. He does not say, you are here to preserve lives. You notice the difference. You do not say anything. The medical bay is 4.2 meters by 6 meters. On your first shift, you count the ceiling tiles, 48. You will count them again on your 100th shift, when counting is the only thing keeping you present. They call you Doc. Everyone calls the medic Doc. You have not yet earned anything. The name lands on you like a uniform you have not grown into. You wear it anyway. 1:30 to 3:15. The ascent. The first rotation is 7 months. You treat blisters. You treat dehydration. The temperature reaches 48 degrees Celsius in July, and soldiers stop drinking water because the water is warm, and warm water makes them feel sick, and then they are yours to fix. You fix them, you become efficient. In the second rotation, there are real wounds. A roadside device, a vehicle rollover, a man who will lose his left leg below the knee. You pack the wound. You follow protocol exactly. He lives. Your supervisor writes something in a report. You're told you performed well. The commendation is 1 paragraph. You read it once and put it in your bag. 14 months, pre-deployment, training 7 months. First rotation length 48 degrees Celsius, peak ambient temperature. E5, your rank after year 2. By the end of year 2, you are promoted to E5. The ceremony takes 4 minutes. You shake a hand, you sign a form. That evening, 2 soldiers ask you questions. You do not yet know how to answer. You answer them anyway because that is what an E5 does. You sound more certain than you are. They believe you. This is how authority works here. Not earned all at once, but borrowed incrementally and never fully returned. By year 3, you have learned the unspoken taxonomy of wounds. There are wounds that are survivable with what you have. There are wounds that are survivable with what you do not have. There are wounds that are not survivable. The third category does not shrink over time. You thought it would. It does not. 3:15 to 5. The system. The system has rules. You know the rules. The rules say, treat in order of survivability. The rules say, do not exceed your scope of practice. The rules say, document everything within 24 hours. The rules say many things that are correct in theory and imperfect in the field, in the dust. At 2 in the morning, when the generators are still humming and there is blood on the floor, you will mop before the morning briefing. You learn creative compliance. You do not call it that. Nobody calls it that. But you learn to record what can be recorded and absorb what cannot. You learn which omissions protect the mission and which omissions protect the patient. Occasionally, these are the same omission. More often, they are not. You choose, and then you choose again. And over months, the choosing becomes reflex. There are 47 items in a standard combat medic kit. You have memorized the weight and placement of each. In the dark, at speed, with your hands shaking from adrenaline, you can locate any one of them in under 3 seconds. This is a skill no one sees until it is needed. The chain of evacuation is point of injury. Aid station, roll 2 surgical, roll 3 hospital. The average transport time from point of injury to roll 3 is 62 minutes in your region, in your rotation. 62 minutes is a long time. You learn what the human body can endure across 62 minutes. You learn what it cannot. The bureaucracy is not malicious. That is the thing people on the outside do not understand. the forms, the protocols, the after-action reports, they exist because systems require documentation to survive across rotations, across personnel changes, across the constant turnover of people who remember and people who do not. The system was built for continuity. You happen to be inside it. You adapt. Your system calls it a circle. You are between rotations in the transient building in the city that is not your city. She asks how you're doing. You say, fine. She asks what you have been doing. You say, oh, working. She says she misses you. You feel the shape of that sentence, the warmth of it, but you cannot find it inside yourself to match it. You say, I miss you too. You are not lying. You are simply operating at a delay. There is a word for it in the literature. Several words, in fact. You have read them all, because reading clinical language about your own condition is easier than naming it in plain speech. The words are hypervigilance, emotional blunting, dissociative detachment. You know what they mean. Knowing what they mean does not stop them from occurring. By year 4, you sleep in 4-hour intervals. Not because of a schedule, because 4 hours is what your body allows before it wakes itself to check the perimeter. There is no perimeter. The habit persists regardless. You stop explaining your work at family gatherings, not because you are ashamed, because explanation requires a shared vocabulary. And the vocabulary of what you do, tourniquet, hemostatic, triage, the particular sound a chest makes when the lung is compromised, does not translate into the language of dinner tables. You eat. You answer questions with the shortest accurate answer. You drive home alone. The isolation is not dramatic. It does not arrive in a crisis. It arrives the way sediment arrives, one fine layer at a time, settling, compacting, until one day you realize you're standing at a considerable depth below the person you believed yourself to be 3 years ago, and the distance is not painful so much as it is simply true. 6:30 to 8 o'clock. The shattering out. There are 2 of them. The call comes at 3:47. You are already awake. The first is a compound fracture with arterial involvement. He's 26. He is stable if you act now. The second has blast trauma. Thoracic, bilateral, the kind that requires a chest seal and a needle and approximately 8 minutes of focused intervention. She's 31. She's declining. You have 1 kit, a full kit. Enough for 1 complete critical intervention, not 2. No one tells you to choose. No protocol covers this moment precisely. The algorithm in your training says, greatest good for the greatest number. The algorithm does not know their names. You do not know their names either, not yet, but you know their wounds, and in triage, wounds are the only biography that matters. You make the decision in 11 seconds. Later, in the debrief, you're told the decision was correct by every clinical metric. Correct. The word sits in the room between you and your supervisor like an object neither of you wants to touch. The first patient survives. You already knew he would. The second does not. You already knew that too in the 11 seconds. In the arithmetic of available resources and wound severity and probability. You knew, and you chose knowing. And now you carry the knowing. This is the moment the illusion dissolves. Not the illusion that medicine saves lives. You never believed in a perfect version of that. The illusion that dissolves is simpler. The illusion that doing your job correctly means you will be able to live with having done it. You can do it correctly. You can live with it. These are 2 separate things. You understand now that they have always been 2 separate things. The training never said so. The training assumed they were one. 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. The cycle. Your final rotation ends on a Tuesday. The paperwork takes 3 weeks. You sign your name 22 times across 14 forms. No one marks the occasion. There is a handshake and a folder, and then there is a parking lot, and you are standing in the parking lot, and the sun is doing what sun does, which is shine indifferently on everything. Within 6 weeks, someone else has your bunk. Someone else has your designation. Someone else is 23 years old, and their kit weighs 11 kilograms, and they are counting the ceiling tiles, and they have not yet learned the smell. And they are, in every measurable way, exactly where you were when you arrived. The system did not notice your departure. The system is not capable of noticing departures. her the way you think about the color of that light before the first explosion, as something you reached for a name for and never found. She's not a failure. She's not a ghost. She is, more precisely, the specific weight of a decision made correctly and correctly and correctly again, until correctness became the only thing you had left. The generator somewhere is still humming. Within 6 weeks, someone else has your bunk, someone else has your designation. Someone else is 23 years old and their kit weighs 11 kilograms, and they are counting the ceiling tiles, and they have not yet learned the smell, and they are, in every measurable way, exactly where you were when you arrived. The system did not notice your departure. The system is not capable of noticing departures. That is not a flaw in the system. It is the system's core design principle. You think sometimes about the one you did not choose, not in the way they warned you. You might think about it, not as an obsession, not as a collapse. You think about her the way you think about the color of that light before the first explosion, as something you reached for a name for and never found. She's not a failure. She's not a ghost. She is, more precisely, the specific weight of a decision made correctly and correctly and correctly again, until correctness became the only thing you had left. The generator somewhere is still humming, 60 hertz. Another minute is counting ceiling tiles. The system continues. It has always continued. It will continue past everyone who has ever been inside. That is not a tragedy. That is simply what systems are. You were not broken by the work. You were shaped by it, the way stone is shaped. Not destroyed, but permanently altered at the molecular level in ways that do not show on the surface, that cannot be reversed. Somewhere the explosion is still arriving before the scream. Somewhere someone has learned